I think definitely the external factor, especially democratic government foreign policy regarding the religious freedom in China, has made a difference and can make a more impact if the policy is in the right place, if the practice of the policy is in the right place. And myself, of course, is an example, and many others. When President Bush was in office, there was a case that involved a Beijing house church pastor who was also my former coworker, was about to really sentenced to up to 15 years imprisonment for printing Bibles and distributing among the Bibles among the house church leaders. And but when President Bush made a speech about the importance of freedom of printing, or availability of the scriptures, including the Bibles, I remember he made that speech in Tokyo, and that pastor was sentenced to 3 years in the end. To everybody, they know that speech made his sentence reduced to 3 years from 15 years. And when the foreign leaders chose to publicly, express their solidarity with those vulnerable groups like the house church movement, I think not only the freedom fighters are encouraged inside their own country like China, but also the repressive government leaders would less, would more hesitant to pose the severe punishment against those house church leaders. And I wish more leaders would stand up and express that publicly. I think the quiet diplomacy has its value in some cases, but the words carried power, carries authority. And if you only engaged on so-called quiet diplomacy under the table with small talks, and it will indirectly actually embolden the repressive regimes like the current Chinese government. And so we could tell the difference, especially what had happened in the past 2 years. I think that certainly did not help the cause of freedom fighters in China. For instance, you should engage the Chinese government, tell them this is what we stand for, and we will stand to the end. The religious freedom is part of the U.S. foreign policy, and we will not relent. We will not silent if you are arresting those peaceful worshippers. And secondly, I would encourage all the social, political, economic sectors to advance these principles. You can't just encourage the activists or NGOs to talk about religious freedom. And from the head of state to the CEOs, this, after all, is the foundational first freedom of any civil society. And I think, unfortunately, the very community that the Chinese government really takes seriously, which is the business community, chose to either ignore or dismiss, the value of religious freedom and freedom of speech, freedom of worship. So they were regarded as just, a single interest, on doing business, trade group. And so by doing that, then the issue was ignored in the bilateral relationship. And thirdly, I think as foreign governments, the advantage is you have embassies, you have consulates, you have dignitaries visiting. I think every visit is a chance to talk up the values and the importance of civil society for religious freedom. And I think to engage the Chinese civil society factors, not only just on the official dialogue or engagement. So I think that will make a huge difference.